Well, I just had my first meeting of the Ahuake World Cafe consultative process yesterday, and it went pretty well. It was pretty cool. The idea of Ahuake is that it's going to be a spatial development plan to help guide our development as a district, or as the Waipa district, over the course of the next 30 years. So council is working on having public input into this process to ensure that the needs of the public are reflected in the eventual development plan. They've been eliciting public feedback in formal and informal ways over the last year or so, and I was selected at random to be part of a World Cafe feedback group of about, 40 or 50 people from across the district, who over the course of 2 to 3 hour meetings are going to review the input they received so far and help make recommendations to council regarding our future development over the next 30 years. So it's a pretty cool thing. It's community consultation on steroids, basically, I think. Okay. It's not, and I think it's moving towards partnership with the community in a way that is, that more and more councils and cities and districts and everything are using. My impression is that there is a lot of people here and a lot of energy around a lot of the progressive new urbanist approaches towards development. There's push towards densification, development of biking and walking resources, reducing car dependency, sorry, my shoelace just got wrapped around my pedal. Hold on one second. Alright, something that happens. You're recording on your bike. So yeah, there seems like there's good energy around what I would call evidence-based urbanism and development, which is nice to see. And I think a lot of city planners and experts, engineers, experts in cities understand this. Where I see the inevitable conflict is when non-experts, and sadly I will probably throw council members into this because they are not inherently experts. They just stepped up to do some of the hard work of helping lead council. But I would count them generally as non-experts. And myself, I'm a hobbyist, I'm not an expert. But when non-experts and people, stakeholders that have an outsized influence in decision making, primarily larger business developers, but also business people in general who are, admittedly non-experts in urban planning and only see what they come in contact with and are somewhat limited in their understanding of how development plans, or city development plans and district development plans can, will, and will not support their business. Good example is when people say, I can't put in a cycle lane because I've got this free parking in front of my business, even though the vast majority of that free parking is taken up by people sitting there all day, not shopping, not spending any money really, or limited money in the district. There's this illusion that somehow supports business, whereas making a walkable, bikeable livable urban area that attracts other businesses as well is somehow detrimental to their business. So anyway, when the rubber hits the road, when large developers or a big business interest expresses some interest in our district, they frequently will ask for concessions, and those concessions can come in conflict with our development plan, the long-term development plan. It's hard for council to say no to money. That's the way they see it. It becomes somewhat penny-wise, pound-foolish. When a large developer comes in and says, I want to put this large suburban sprawl development into your community, and you need growth, you need homes. Well, and you need infrastructure investment, so we're going to do this. We're going to put it all in for you. That sets us up for the suburban Ponzi scheme, where they get to do all the development. They give us some roads and some infrastructure and make the money, walk away, and then the council is left dealing with the consequences over the next 30 to 50 years, which is maintaining all the infrastructure and maintaining not only within the development, but maintaining the sprawl-based infrastructure throughout the entire city that is demanded by large, spread-out developments. Another example would be the old Bunnings site in Cambridge. One of the car dealerships wants to take over that space and put a big car dealership in what is essentially the middle of our CBD. Now, we already have one car dealership which integrates fairly well into our CBD, and it doesn't take up a lot of space. As far as car dealerships go, it does a good job, but it's still not ideal. And it's in an area of town where the CBD, the livability, walkability, etc. of the CBD starts falling apart as you cross, Queen Street. And so on the other side of that is where we see the car dealership. So putting another giant car dealership in a CBD is just a bad idea, but it's enticing because we've got this property sitting quiet, not generating any revenue, and somebody comes in and says, hey, I'll do this, I'll give you some revenue, and really the only concession is the opportunity costs. Saying yes to a development like this essentially is saying no to alternative development. So it's important to understand that. And again, when money and interests come into town, and it feels like there's a conflict between Ahuaki, our planned development, and what on the first blush appears like the financial interests of the district. Councilors and business people are going to have their meetings behind closed doors and say, yeah, these community members are just naive. These Ahuaki people, they're not business people. They don't understand how business is the engine of all things. I would argue the people are the engine of all things. And I think evidence supports this too, that making a community that is welcoming, livable, enjoyable, and encourages people to live within its limits by having everything it needs. vis-a-vis the 15-minute city or 20-minute city or whatever you want to call it. A place like that is the engine, and driving, and that will drive business. Not vice versa. But that's a challenging situation, and I believe that one of the things that's going to, the factors that might actually contribute to that happening is if those of us who are participating in the Ahuake development plan don't directly acknowledge some of the potential conflicts and dichotomies inherent to development in the future. So it's easy for developers and counselors to say, yeah, you know what, these naive citizens, they don't know about business and they don't know what runs our city, and so we just need to be pragmatic and make decisions that prioritize industry over people, and people will follow. They need to know that we have addressed the evidence and that potential conflict, and understand and believe and ask counsel to follow the blueprint that livability for people and a self-sustained, walkable, bikeable, safe, vibrant, pleasant community will drive business, and not vice versa. So I'm asking Ahuake to push us a little harder to make that statement, and to officially document that we understand this conflict and we understand this process, and we maintain our belief that business follow the people first development is good for business and not vice versa. So that's my 2 cents. Ahuake.